we have to talk about, because this relates to House of the Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It relates to House of the Dragon. I mean, okay. I remember back then in the olden days when you would be lucky to get a couple genre things a year, right? Like I remember 1982 was like a banner year. You had John Carpenter's The Thing, you had Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, you had Blade Runner. That 1982 was like the year, like, oh my gosh, like Hollywood is finally embracing genre films, sci-fi, fantasy, horror, right? Krull 1982? I don't remember, but it was around that era.
Yeah, the 80s, definitely.
In any case, so now we have two major fantasy franchises with new streaming series coming out within weeks of each other. This is unprecedented. So we have House of the Dragon, the prequel series to Game of Thrones. It's about I'm assuming, just because I watch Game of Thrones, the fall of House Targaryen. When Game of Thrones starts, House Targaryen is broken, and the sort of what's left of it, and to rise from those ashes is kind of the story of Game of Thrones. This is House Targaryen at its height. And then we have Lord of the Rings of Power, and I've seen all three trailers, and I have no idea what this show's about.
Yeah.
I have no idea. And the trailer that dropped yesterday was...
It's another teaser. It's not even a trailer.
It's even another teaser, and they used this sort of modern pop music in it, which I thought was a terrible choice. I thought it was god-awful choice. It looks like it's going to be... They're just leaning into Galadriel she's Rey, right? She's Rey Skywalker. Okay. There's the sort of thing where her brother it's the funeral of her brother. Her brother's body's sitting there, and she grabs his sword, his sword. He's lying there dead, and she grabs this very phallic-like sword, and she's going to get it done.
His golden snitch, right?
The golden snitch, so to speak. But I still have no idea what the show is actually about. It introduces a whole ensemble cast, very diverse cast. I still don't know what the story is, what's the threat, what's going on, etc.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I don't understand the marketing behind this, because they're pissing off all the Tolkien fans, and then they're giving nothing for the rest of us. It looks fantastical, and that's it. That's the motivation you're giving me to watch a show, is because you're just presenting some really good looking images. I want to feel like there's a story there. There's some foundation, some story that I need to hear, need to see, and they're giving nothing, absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it seemed like you get caught up in a story, you get caught up in a character, and this seemed like a PowerPoint presentation for a show they wanted to make, but I don't know what the show is about.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those, those books that filmmakers do to kind of give you the tone and the feel of what they want to do. That's what this is. It's just, it's just a coffee table book at the moment.
Yeah, they call that, directors do this. You should know what this is for aspiring filmmakers out there. It's called a lookbook. And a lookbook is a collection of images. They also call it, there's a video version of that. It's called a Rip-O-Matic. This is like a presentation that a filmmaker, a producer, or director would give a studio to pitch a project. This is before they spent any money. So they collect images and put together a book that like shows you what it's about. I would say that one of the earliest times I ever heard of something like that is when George Lucas hired Ralph McQuarrie in the early 70s to do paintings. There were like 12 paintings that Ralph McQuarrie did for George Lucas to show the studio what Star Wars was supposed to look like, because it was all in his head or on paper. So a lookbook is the paper version of it. A Rip-O-Matic is where you take video and you cut together maybe a couple minute trailer that gives you the tone of something. It was the guy he was going to do Joe Carnahan was going to do Daredevil back in the day, and he cut together a Rip-O-Matic video of what he intended the tone of Daredevil to be, and they kind of stole it for the Netflix series for Daredevil. But if you can find that, look up Joe Carnahan, Daredevil. He did, it's like he created what he thought the tone should have been, which ended up being the Netflix show, basically. When Joe Carnahan was pitching doing another Daredevil movie to Fox back in the day. So in any case, what I've seen now of this trailer is there's a lot of pretty pictures, still no story or characters that tell you like what their journey is. And I feel like if you compare this to the original Lord of the Rings, those trailers were amazing.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, you have to kind of cut it a break in the sense of they're not going to get the money to do the movie type effects. But at the same time, the original, you had Elijah Wood and, recognizable people in the cast to kind of pump up the interest in it. This one, I don't know who these people are at all.
Right. You don't know. They haven't explicitly at least said what the characters are. I mean, they have in some of the promotional materials, but not in the trailers. So yeah, I don't know what the deal is with this. And John Manalang says, slap that like button. First of all, I agree with you, John. And then also, by the way, if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel. Slap that subscribe button.
Slap! Within a grip. You're so...
Get busy, come on.
I think I can name every movie.
Yeah,
that slap.
I've seen every single one of those slaps.
Shout out to Glenn, our producer, who's here in the wings. He made that video. Did an amazing job, Glenn. You gotta plug your channel, Glenn. Glenn's building up his YouTube channel. We'll get a plug in there for him later, but definitely slap that like button. I just wish with this thing, they would give you some idea of what the hell this thing is supposed to be.
I mean, considering the money they've invested in this, you would think they'd be a little bit smarter in terms of promoting this, or they know just how much crap they have on their hands and they're just trying to salvage it.
Well, let's get to some of these comments here. Yeah. Bethel Games says Rings of Power is about nothing besides destroying a male franchise. You mean another one? D. John says taking the sword was symbolic as a man tried and failed. Now it's a woman's turn to do it right. Good. So you noticed that too. I'm like, the first thing I noticed was he's dead. I'll take his sword.
At the same time, Galadriel was a major character in the original.
Well, true. B Sparks 917 is a member. Thank you for that. Chris and Alan watched the original Fellowship trailer, then watched the new Rings of Power trailer, compared one to the other, or just as nowhere the Fellowship, and that was 20 years ago. Yeah, if you just compare those two trailers, watch the original Lord of the Rings trailer, the first movie, and then watch this. And look, yes, comparably, all right, maybe the Rings of Power has better spectacle in terms of effects. Fine. That's also doesn't matter, right? Yeah. Shucksy says, I'm kind of tuning Rings of Power advertisements out since I will never see it. I still watch videos clowning on it, though. Much more entertaining than the show will be. Yeah, I think so as well.